Many call this such a tragedy. It is the story of a family torn apart by the death of a young child.
3 months ago, little Berkeley Giroux went to bed, but the 4-year-old girl never woke up. Her parents devastated, then shocked by what happened next.
7 Action News investigator Bill Proctor joins us to explain.
Within days of finding their daughter dead in her bedroom, her parents, Brian and Billy Giroux, were deemed suspects in the death. The state then removed their son from their home while Jackson County authorities investigated the case. Now, 3 months later, no charges have been filed. But the 8-year-old, Brody, his young life now in limbo, is still in protective custody, and many experts are questioning whether the prosecutor is using the boy as leverage. To hear his family describe him, 8-year-old Brody Giroux is like most kids his age.
He's a phenomenal little athlete already. He loves and lives to be with his friends, to go outside and play soccer, to play catch.
And Brody's grandma says he loved his little sister.
He was a very protective brother.
But on August 7th, Brody's life changed. His little sister was found lifeless in her bedroom that summer morning.
Put her to bed like every other night, covered her up, said love you, and walked out. I went in to wake her up at about 9:30 and I found her.
Very much in shock, not understanding how she can be okay on Monday, and we're playing outside and shooting basketball and blowing bubbles. And then the deputy walked out and said she's gone.
They say just as they were mourning the death of their little girl came another blow, this time from Child Protective Services.
Your daughter's death has been ruled a homicide. Where is your son? And those were the exact words when they walked in.
The state took Brody from his parents 2 weeks after Berkeley died. He was placed in foster care with strangers, and that's where he remains to this day. Here's what turned the Giroux family upside down. It's the Jackson County Medical Examiner's report. And it says little Berkeley's death was caused by asphyxiation, and the prosecutor is pointing at the parents.
Brody didn't lose his baby sister. She was murdered in her bed. And either mom or dad did it. And they're the only 2 suspects in the investigation.
Not only did they take Brody away, he's not allowed to see his parents while in foster care because he's considered a potential witness against his parents.
The concern whether or not the 8 or 9-year-old is a res gest eyewitness and whether or not a child in that circumstance could be subject to coaching.
Only Brody's grandparents are allowed supervised visits with him once a month.
He obviously misses mom and dad and his family, his routine, his dog, sleeping in his own bed at night.
While Brody waits, the wheels of justice move slowly. The prosecutor wanted to conduct her own polygraph, but the parents, based on the guidance of their attorney, contracted their own lie detector test from a respected state polygraph expert. With that, they say they've done everything to cooperate with the investigation.
We've done all the things they've asked us to do. We took polygraphs. We paid for the polygraphs out of our pocket. Okay? Passed with flying colors.
The couple also had another pathologist review the case, and he doesn't think it was murder. In his report, Dr. Bader Casson writes, quote, "I was surprised to find that the manner of death was called homicide," unquote. Casson also was surprised that the Jackson County Medical Examiner made his ruling without having the child's medical records or the police report. Brody's parents suspect their daughter's death may have been caused by an ongoing condition called febrile seizures. These seizures are fairly common among kids under 5, and they typically stop on their own. But could such a seizure have caused little Berkeley's death? The chief pediatric neurologist at Detroit's Children's Hospital says yes, if a fever is involved.
And those are really a form of epilepsy that is brought out by a fever. And then that's really epilepsy. And epilepsy can cause death in sleep, yes.
The Giroux say Berkeley did have fevers like this in the past, but not in the hours preceding her death. Still, they and their attorney believe Brody is now being held hostage to pressure them to confess to murdering their daughter, a crime they say they didn't commit.
It's horrendous, the abuse of power and authority that's occurred here through the prosecutor and the Department of supposed to be Protective Services.
Stanley Sala is the couple's attorney.
They really don't have anything. They're grasping at straws. And then the threat in the answer to the motion that says, we're going to keep Brody until you give us what we want, is unbelievable.
And what they want is?
They want somebody to admit to a crime that didn't occur.
Brody's parents insist they did not harm their daughter and desperately want their son returned home.
Our son is with strangers. We can't see him. We can't hold him. We can't talk with him about his sister's death. We can't reassure him.
While they wait for Brody to return, the Giroux have kept his bedroom and their daughter's just as they were before they were gone, except now those rooms are quiet and still. So what does the prosecutor say? Well, they flatly deny using Brody as a confession tool. Next week, the Giroux will be back in court. This time, they will be going up against the Department of Human Services. The state has filed an abuse and neglect case to keep Brody from going home for good. Bill Proctor, Channel 7 Action News.
Well, just 34 hours after a 7 Action News investigation exposed serious flaws in a prosecutor's case against a Jackson couple, their 8-year-old son is back home tonight. The boy was taken from his parents 2 weeks after his little sister died in her sleep. The parents were accused of killing their daughter. 7 Action News investigator Bill Proctor joins us now with a very happy reunion. Bill?
It was, in fact, a happy reunion. The family reunited at the little boy's elementary school this morning. His mom now recalls that very special moment.
And I walked out into the hallway to look for Brian, and Brody was walking up the ramp, and it was just so surreal to see him. You know, like I haven't seen him, and he just looked beautiful.
It's the first time in 71 days that the Giroux family is at home and together. The first time since August that they are free to play ball in the yard together, and weeks since Brody was forced to live with foster care strangers after Child Protective Service workers took him from his parents. Brody remembers that day.
They said that it could be a while from my parents, and I was actually really scared.
Scared was just one of the emotions that consumed the parents after Brody's 4-year-old sister Berkeley died in her sleep. 2 weeks after her passing in her sleep, the Jackson County medical examiner ruled the death a homicide. But the Giroux fought back. They took and passed polygraph tests that they paid for to demonstrate that they had nothing to do with the 4-year-old's death. This is the assistant prosecutor that didn't believe their claims of innocence and told the court why Brody should be removed from his parents.
That Brody didn't lose his baby sister. She was murdered in her bed. And either mom or dad did it. And they're the only 2 suspects in the investigation.
This is the same assistant prosecutor who withdrew the petition to take Brody from his parents early this morning. And a short time later, Brian and Billy went to the 8-year-old's elementary school to take him home after a long ordeal. The Giroux family had been separated for 71 difficult days. They clearly missed Halloween, but now they're planning for a very happy Thanksgiving together.
And I'm sure still grieving the loss of their little girl. Is Child Protective Services admitting any blame in this?
Absolutely not. They think that they moved responsibly, mainly because of that one report that said homicide instead of indeterminate. At least 2 other reports now say indeterminate is the cause of the child's death.
And at least the family's back together tonight. That's a very happy ending. Thanks, Bill, for following this story to the end.
They are indeed.